Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be taking a look at Yu-Gi-Oh! Millennium. This is a forgotten board game all the way back from 2002, so it's over 20 years old at this point, and made by Mattel, who made a lot of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Toys and figures back in the day, including the Hero Series collection. I actually found this game at a really good price and thought it would be interesting to do a video taking a look at it. And I want to announce now that I'm actually going to be doing a collab video with Nonstop Tabletop. You can check them out on YouTube. I'll put a link in the description down below. And they play board games, all kinds of different things. They're, really interesting to watch if you want to sit down and just have a fully immersive board game experience watching people play. So in this video, we're going to take a look at the game and learn how it works, and then I'm going to play it with them, and we're going to see how it actually plays. So let's get into the video. Thank you guys so much for checking out the video, and please, if you do enjoy, hit the like button and subscribe. Leave a comment down below and let us know what you think, and I'm going to waste no more of your time. We're going to get right into the demo of how this game works. Hopefully you guys enjoy. You have the game board that you need to start. It's relatively small, but it is here, and it does what you need it to do. Now, in order to set up a game, you can have between 2 to 4 players. The more players you have, the less pieces there are in the center. But let's go over some gameplay basics. In Yu-Gi-Oh! Millennium, the way to win is to collect all 5 pieces of the Millennium puzzle. Assuming you're playing a 4-player game, that means each player will start with 1 piece, and the final piece will go in the middle, called the arena. Each player starts on a game shop square. You have Seto Kaiba, we can put over here. You've got My Valentine, we can put over here. So we've got Kaiba here, Mai here, and then Joey and Yugi in the back. But as long as you can see one set of the game shops, you understand the basics in terms of board layout. Each player starts with 1 piece of the Millennium puzzle, and the game is over when one person collects all 4. If you're playing a game with less than 4 people, the additional puzzle pieces go in the center, but we'll talk in just a minute how you actually go about obtaining those puzzle pieces. Alright, now the small cards we talked about earlier on are called trap tiles. There's 28 of them in total, and you split them up evenly with 7 on every trap tile space on the board. You can see them like so, next to each main arena location. The trap tiles do different things for battle, but we'll talk about that in a minute when we get there. Then we have monster sliders. These are basically your actual monsters that you use to duel within the game, and you'll see they have different numbers on them because they do depend on which character is using them. These monster sliders do not get split up like the trap tiles do, but get placed off to the side of the board in a monster slider deck. Once per turn during a player's turn, they can attend the game shop, and if they're inside the game shop, they are able to retrieve a monster slider. When starting the game, the 4 monster slider card readers are placed face down. Each one represents a different character, and the character that is on your slider will be the character you play as through the game. Each player randomly selects a slider to reveal, and if there are any remaining, you simply put them off to the side. You've got My Valentine, Joey Wheeler, Yami Yugi, and Seto Kaiba. Different sliders will have different holes on them to represent the monster's stats and roles you can use for arena battles and other battle types, which we'll get to shortly. I feel like I've said that many times. Finally, we have the battle cards. These battle cards are used when you challenge a player to a battle, and I'll explain how that works in a moment. There are 3 types of battle. There is Saikoro, which is a dice battle game that's based on hitting certain symbols on the dice. There is Ikusa, which is similar to the card game War, and utilizes the numbers on the top of the trap tiles to determine the winners. And then there is Janken, or Janken, which is essentially rocks, paper, scissors. These 3 battle cards are shuffled and kept face down off to the side at any time until a player needs to choose one for a battle. This is the arena. The arena is essentially the most important part of the board because arena duels are the only way to win Millennium Puzzle. In order to win a piece from another player, you must challenge that player at the arena. You can enter the arena one of 2 ways. If you land on one of the adjacent spaces to the arena, you can then go in and challenge a player to come face you in arena combat. Additionally, there are trap tiles that allow you to fast travel to the arena, at which point you can then challenge the opponent there. Any battles for puzzle pieces are fought in the arena. The loser must forfeit all puzzle pieces that they have. If they have no puzzle pieces, then they will have to forfeit monster sliders. You cannot enter the arena through the grassy area outside. You must land on one of these spaces in order to be able to do so. To start the game, each player rolls the numbered die. The player who rolls the highest number goes first. If there are any ties, then you simply re-roll. You can move up to the number of spaces rolled on the dice. For example, if I roll a 6, I can move Kaiba 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces. That would end my turn. However, I can move any number of spaces up to 6, including moving diagonal. You must move at least one space in order to take your turn. If you land on a trap space, as such, you can take a trap tile from the deck. If you enter a game shop, landing here, you can take a monster slider from the deck. If you're not in the arena and you land on a space adjacent to an opponent, you can choose to challenge them to a battle. Battles are different than arena fights simply because they do not get contested for puzzle pieces. You can challenge this player to a battle and then draw a battle card as discussed prior. When challenging a player on the board for pieces in the arena, you simply put your piece there and then move that other player's piece to the arena. After the arena duel concludes, both players are moved to their respective opponent's starting game shops, at which point they draw a monster slider. So if Kaiba and Mai were to battle in the dome, Kaiba would return to Mai's starting shop, and Mai would return to Kaiba's, and both players would draw a monster slider card. The monster slider cards have two sets of numbers. There are the blue and there are the green. They tell you how many of which dice you can roll. While these dice are most prevalent in combat, these symbols here represent hits. The green dice has more hits than the blue dice, so the green are generally going to be better numbers. You will notice that depending on where you place these in the sliders, the dice roll results will be different. Certain characters may have better stats with certain creatures, and vice versa. In terms of buildings, you are only able to enter or exit a building through the highlighted yellow spaces. In other words, in order to land on a trap space, you must first enter this building and then go to the trap tile location. Same for the game shop. In order to enter the game shop, you land on the yellow space, and then you can move forward into the shop. You may not visit the same game shop or trap symbol twice in a row. In other words, if you're here and you draw a monster slider, you can't then roll on your next turn and say move a couple spaces and go back in. You must move to a different game shop if you want to draw a card. Picking up a slide or trap tile, or battling or participating in an arena duel ends your move. When you land on a trap tile space, you draw a trap from that building's pile. If all of them are gone, you may not draw from another building. Remember, each building will have 7 tiles. You cannot have more than 4 trap tiles in your hand at a time. If you do, you must immediately discard any extras without using them, placing them on the bottom of the trap deck. You are able, however, to play trap tiles the same turn that you pick them up, and you can play as many trap tiles as you possess per turn. The number in the right-hand corner of a trap tile is called the Akusa number. This is used to determine the result of an Akusa battle. Different trap tiles do different things, outlined in the rulebook. For example, this is an instant battle trap tile. When outside the arena, you can activate this trap tile to move an opponent to a space adjacent to your character and begin a battle. Again, this battle would be contested for monster sliders or trap tiles, not for puzzle pieces. Additionally, a trap tile like this allows you to add an additional hit to the number rolled on the dice. So if participating in an arena duel, you could utilize this to add an extra die roll counting as an automatic hit. You may play the trap tiles during battles as long as their activation conditions allow you to do so. This is the Arena Duel trap tile, which allows you to immediately transport yourself and a chosen opponent to the arena where you partake in an arena duel. After this happens, the same steps as outlined earlier, returning to the opposing shops, are still followed. This trap tile allows you to take an additional turn at the end of your turn, but must be played when your turn ends. This trap tile is called 1 miss equals 2 hits. You can count a misrolled die on the duel dice as 2 hits. So you must roll a miss to use this card. So if you roll the green die and it's a miss, you can then immediately activate this to count that as 2 additional hits, which could come quite handy later in battles or arena duels. This is the open eye, which allows you to look through an opponent's trap tiles and take one. If it does bring the total in your hand above 4, you must immediately discard. And this trap tile allows you to move twice your roll. You multiply the roll on the die by 2. You can be played after the movement die is rolled. You do not have to play it before, but you must still move at least 1 space and can move up to the number rolled. And finally, this is the lose a turn die. You play this card on an opponent and they lose their next turn. You cannot use this card per se in the middle of a battle to skip or force the opponent to lose a battle, but you can force them to skip a turn. Next up, explaining the monster sliders, as these are primarily going to be used in battles. You cannot have more than 3 monster sliders in your hand at any given time. They must be left face up. Monster tiles that are not active must be left face down in your hand so the opponents do not see them. You must always keep a monster card in your reader at all times unless you are out of monster slider. Your reader must be kept face up at all times so that all players can see it and they are able to see the stats. If you lose a battle with an opponent, not an arena duel, your opponent takes the monster in your slider. You must then replace it with another. If you have no monsters to give up after losing a battle, you can simply give your opponent a trap token. If you don't have a trap tile either, then you automatically lose your next turn. If you wish to swap the monster out of your monster slider, you can do so, but only during your turn. Once you begin an arena duel, you may not swap a slider even if it is your turn. In other words, you must use the monster that is there, and if you get challenged to a duel by another player, you cannot swap before the battle begins. If you land on a space adjacent to a player and choose to challenge them to a battle, they must also have a monster slider. Players cannot battle inside game shops. When a battle begins, you shuffle the 3 battle cards and draw 1. If the one drawn is Ikusa, you shuffle all the trap tiles that you have, and then your opponent shuffles theirs. You choose a tile from the opponent's hand at random for the opponent to use, and they do the same for you. Whoever's tile is a higher number, the Ikusa number in the right-hand corner, wins that battle. If they have no tiles, or you have no tiles, you lose. If neither player has a tile, you must draw a different battle card. For Saikoro, both players must roll the die and count the number of hits. For example, if I rolled these 2, I would have no hits, and then my opponent were to roll and have 1, my opponent would win that game. And finally, Janken, which is rocks, paper, scissors. You simply play a game of rocks, paper, scissors with the opponent. You can optionally yell out the included phrases or just play the game of rocks, paper, scissors, whichever you prefer. And the winner wins, of course, with paper beating rock, rock beating scissors, and scissors beating paper. When a battle ends, the loser must forfeit their monster that is in the slider. If they do not have a monster, they must forfeit a trap tile. If they have no trap tiles, then they lose their next turn. If you win a battle against an opponent and you already have 3 monsters total, you must discard 1 monster to the bottom of the monster slider deck. Additionally, the victor of that battle draws a trap tile from one of the trap decks. Now, of course, the biggest focus here is the Millennium Puzzle, and in order to win the Millennium Puzzle, you must defeat an opponent who holds a piece in the arena. You can travel to the arena by the aforementioned trap tiles, or you can simply land on one of the arena spaces and enter the arena. Once you're here, you can choose an opponent who has a piece and move that opponent's slider in. Each player will look at the slider to determine the number of die that they roll for an arena duel. For example, you would see that this Black Skull Dragon has a 4 blue die and 1 green die, meaning that the player controlling Black Skull Dragon would roll this die 4 times and would roll this die once. The numbers of hits from these would be combined, and the opponent would do the same for theirs. In this instance, if the opponent was battling using Exodia the Forbidden One, they would roll 2 of each die, compared to Black Skull Dragon's 1 and 4. The player with the most hits wins. If there is a tie, you re-roll all dice. The loser forfeits all Millennium Puzzle pieces that they are currently holding to the victor. After the arena battle ends, you travel to your opponent's game shop and you draw a monster slider immediately. You cannot challenge a player to a duel in the arena if they do not have a piece of. Depending on the number of people in your game, if you collect 4 pieces of the puzzle by defeating the other 3 opponents and having your starting piece, there will be 1 piece remaining in the center. In order to gain this center piece, all other players must vote on the player they think has the strongest chance of defeating you. That player will then move to the arena and will partake in battle. For example, if the player with Mai had collected all 4 pieces and there was only 1 remaining and all 3 other players were in the game, they could choose Kaiba's player to be the one to represent because they think that Kaiba has the strongest cards with the strongest chances of hits. You proceed there and battle. If the challenging player wins, they collect the final puzzle piece and assemble the puzzle and win the game. If the defending player wins, they take all pieces from the challenging player, but they do not take the final piece. They would then have to wait until their next turn to be able to challenge someone else and repeat the same steps. Overall, the game is won by collecting all 5 pieces of the puzzle and is meant to be a relatively simple but fun card battle game with a few different tweaks to make it interesting. The trap tiles, of course, have some variety and replicate the idea of playing cards from your hand in Yu-Gi-Oh's grandiose style, and the monster battles allow you to utilize the dice in a unique way to battle with different characters. It's likely that no 2 games of Yu-Gi-Oh! Millennium would play exactly the same because different character sliders do different things for the creatures, and you never know what traps you might get and how to play them. With that being said, best of luck to those of you who decide to try the game, and may you have the luck of collecting the puzzle without the challenges that that we know Yugi had when he put his together. Yu-Gi-Oh! Millennium is not exactly reinventing the wheel in terms of board games, but for a 21-year-old game, it definitely seems like it'll be a fun time, and I'm looking forward to play it. You can check out the actual gameplay of this video on Nonstop Tabletop on YouTube. I will be joining their channel for a fun collab as we'll be playing this game out, and I'll link you guys to the video in the description below once it has been posted. But let me know what you think. Do you think Yu-Gi-Oh! Millennium is a game that might be up your alley? And realistically speaking, would you be more open to giving it a try, having now gotten a basic playthrough tutorial? What do you think? Do you think they could make a new Yu-Gi-Oh! Board game nowadays? Certainly plenty of things to talk about as we look at some of the more unique Yu-Gi-Oh! Items. But I want to thank you guys so much for watching. If you do enjoy the game, please hit the like button and subscribe. Leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. And I'll see you in the next video.